So what's up, YouTube? This is Doug Jenkins. Haven't been on the videos in a while, and I've been thinking about videos to do, and I realized people like my gear videos. We're going to show you a multi-band compressor, what it is. We're going to go through it, hopefully run some sound through it for you, and let you hear what it does. In a song, we'll open up a Pro Tools session here and explain to you exactly what multi-band's all about. So this is like the holy grail of multi-band compressors right here. So as you can see here on screen, we have the maselec, the massive, and then the manly. We also have a channel strip, but I've noticed that this channel strip using the Abbott HDX system has given us all the headroom we can possibly imagine. So we actually use a lot of Pro Tools to do almost like the final master. It's just worked well, and then we'll bring it over to Wavelab to adjust it and bring the CD together. But this one right here, I want to explain to you, what the maselec does, and we're going to take this off and push play on this thing. Now here's the thing, this song's sitting at as you hear this song, you can see it's sitting around -12. That's the RMS, where you see the levels, the LED meters just sitting. That's the average RMS. So how do we turn that up? If you can hear this master or this mix, the high end, when we turn this up, is going to go out of control, and I want you to know that. So in a mastering situation, they like their high end. I mean, this is what I've learned as a mastering engineer. There's a reason that they did that. There's a reason that they made the highs shine like that. And how can we control that without... We're going to have to turn it up from -12 to -6. That increase in average loudness is going to cause a lot of issues, and this is where a lot of guys screw up. They'll just put like an L2 limiter on it, they'll put an R compressor on it, whatever they put on it, and then they'll just turn it up, and what happens is the bass becomes squashed, and the high end is so loud that the song just sounds really, really muffled. So let's go back over to the maselec here. This is the high end. This is the high shelf. We can switch where we want it. So at 1.5K all the way up to 12K, it's going to affect on this band. That's what a multi-band does. Allows us to just control the highs. In this case, it's the best solution for the song. A lot of independent masters, why we bought this piece of gear is because I do probably 80% of my business is independent artists. So I appreciate y'all, and we're going to keep making great music for you. This is the high end, then the mid-range. So once we address the issue at hand, the high end, we can see what's going on in the mids and the lows. What I noticed in this song is the lows were actually squashed already with a subpar plug-in. And what happened is it wasn't totally killed, but a lot of times the bass is wrong once we get the highs under control. So let's hook up the maselec so you can hear it. See that? Turn this off. Hear the highs come out. This just evened them out. So anyways, what we're getting at here is now when we turn this up, the high end's adjusted, the bass is being held, and the mid-range, when it needs it, is being controlled. So now you got an even song that we can turn up. So I'm listening to this song again. Let's listen to the highs. If I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to overdo it, especially in the wrong room. So a lot of times I've heard people do multi-band, they'll really like it, and then they'll just twist it all the way back. Then it sounds really flat. So that's about perfect. Too much. So now Okay, so it's still at -12, but the high end, what gives you RMS is usually the lows and the mids. So now the high end's even with the lows and the mids, and this is a transparent master. There's totally different mastering too. When you send your music off for mastering, explain to us, do you want us to alter the song, or do you like it but you just want it to be even and balanced? And in this case, the mix came in and it sounded good. So we started with a stem session, which is our 125 service. We left the vocals alone. I mean, we liked the bright high-end vocal, but at the time we could have de-essed the vocal, we could have done some things to the vocal, but the thing is it was blended well with the hi-hats. So you have to look at this as a mastering situation where we just want to take the hi-hats in the vocals, and this is why mastering is so important, because the mixing engineer is mixing the high end of the vocal to the hi-hat. That's exactly what happened here. But in the scheme of things, the whole entire song, the hi-hats in the high end were way too much. So what we did was we controlled it with a very transparent, and this is why we have this equipment, so we can take it and control it volume-wise without taking away from the actual production of it. So now you still have this nice shiny hi-hats and high end, and the guys spent a lot of time on it, and we just controlled it. So now how do we bring it up? In this case, we're going to use the Manley MU. The Manley MU is a vacuum tube variable mu. It changes gain based on the way that it works with the tube, which is really crazy. And it's the rebiasing of the tubes creates a vacuum, and then it shoots the sound quality up, and it's used in stuff like the Fairchild that was used on the Beatles albums and things like that. I don't know one album that this did not sound great on. So let me explain to you. We're going to turn the gain up quite a bit in a digital world, so we can give it some analog world. So here's this, what this does. So when I turn this off, watch. I mean, did you hear just the increase in just musicality? Everybody in the streets, they know I grind. Ask about me in the streets, you think I'm blind. You see these diamonds on my neck, you know I shine. And then the last thing was we still hear the highs just a little bit too bright, so we're going to use the massive passive at 560. This is what we found the roll-off point, and I'm going to show you. There's a roll-off point in the mids to the highs where you want the mids to sound smooth, so there's going to have to be some sense of roll-off, and I'll show you. I'll do it very drastically so you can hear it. What I mean is, it's like seek and destroy. You can move this all the way down till you have the mids sounding nice and even and nice and presentable. So that's a nice mid-range, and then it lets the bass come through. Now what we want to do is on this last band is even it out. Everybody in the streets, they know I grind. If we get way too much, we can clean up the low mids a little bit if we wanted to, but watch. More of a mid-range mix. See me in these streets, I know you're tuned in. You checking out my swag and what I'm driving in. You only get back. And that's it. So now watch. If I don't speak when I see you, me, we ain't friends. And that's what was sent to me. And that's what our, I mean, that's a 125 stem session service. This is the second half of the stem session. So what you just witnessed was, first of all, we added a little 120 hertz with the Manley. Huge. The shelf, awesome. No EQ that I know of does it like this one. It's a passive EQ, so when I boost something, it actually turns everything else around it down, so you're not losing headroom. It does the same thing when you cut it. It turns everything up, so you're not losing headroom. It keeps it at the same volume. The Manley is grabbing. A lot of times in independent records, a lot of guys say, well, you shouldn't be using the needles. The needle shouldn't be moving much. That's with a professionally done mix, you know. We don't want to touch it that much. So each mix is different. And then you also have the multi-band, which is from Maselec, and that one is pretty much the key to this whole thing. Now, we could use plugins to do it, but I've noticed plugins sort of degrade the sound, and I use a lot of plugins in mastering, don't get me wrong, but it has to be the right plugin. Each plugin has its own sound to it. It's crazy once you have the proper room to listen. So this is how mastering works. And then with a full entire album, we do it with the whole entire album. So we go through with each hi-hat, with each cymbal. And what's crazy about mastering that a lot of people don't understand is a lot of guys get this confused, and this is where our stem service comes in. In a stem service, we want to make the best decisions based on a mix. So we want to clean up the vocals, clean up the kick drum if you want to send that as a stem, clean up the bass line, and then bring it together. And a lot of guys will be like, well, is this the final master? Well, if you're sending 15 songs, it's not the final master, because we want to do this with all 15 songs present so we can make the correct adjustments. Our main monitors here are the focals, and then we have a live listening room, which is very almost like a boombox slash high-end listening area. And the room in here is really, really good as far as the mastering of an album. And we just moved over here, and this is why I haven't been doing many videos, but the results we're getting out of here. So the other thing that I'll talk about before I get off this video is the bus compressor. We might put this first in the chain if we have a song come in, a pop song, a rock song, that a guy says, man, I just want it to be more punchy. This box here is like the definition of punch. We can put this in the chain if we want to. A lot of guys, a lot of hip-hop guys, they've already overdone the punch and tried everything they can to get punch. But when a song comes in and it sounds dull, or it just doesn't sound like it's got a lot of energy, we'll run it through the bus compressor, almost like the final stage of a mix. So for the 125, once again, you get that. This video is not just about me, getting business. This video is about educating you on why this stuff is used in mastering. The integrity, I mean, even turning this on and running something through it, you can hear the image become better. Same thing with the Manly. Same thing with the Massive, both Manleys and the SSL. They all have their own unique sound that really, to me, through the years of doing this, is what professional is. Now, if you don't have any of this stuff, you still can do this at home. I mean, you can use things like multi-band compressors from companies like MIG DSP or Waves or UAD, and you can mess around with multi-bands. I think it's one of the most challenging things to mess with, because you can really get into the no man's land, I call it, where you just start tweaking things so much that you really got to step back and go, wait a minute. As I've done this more and more and more, my goal is to just do this for surgical, technical results. I don't want to have to totally alter the low end with a multi-band. I might EQ and solo and just listen to the lows, and then use an EQ in the box maybe, and try to surgically take out things that don't need to be around the bass, and then bring a bigger image to the kick drum. So 125 is a starter rate, and we're going to do everything in our power to use all this nice equipment and do the stem session. At this time, if you just want mastering like we just did for a gentleman yesterday, he opted to do vocals and instrumental, which is very popular for the hip-hop crowd in a mixtape. So if you have a mixtape, like 10 songs, you send that whole entire mixtape with the vocals, and then we'll use this kind of gear on just the vocals. We have an LA610 just for that purpose. So your main vocal, send it mono, because this is a mono piece, and then your backup vocals will run through the Manly, or maybe the maselec to tighten them up, or maybe the SSL on the beat, and then we can pick and choose. And then we do a second day where we run it all through this, and it's like night and day. And if you're at home making records, it is the day and age of taking something from your house and getting a great result because of mastering, because of mixing engineers. And I would highly say this, and I want to end the video like this: if you have the money, get it mixed before you send it for mastering. So we're a stem mastery. This is Doug Jenkins from imixandmaster.com, and we're going to get the videos, we're going to keep them rolling. So